The following production is produced by the State University of New York College at Oneonta.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Inside Red Dragon Sports. I'm your host, Geoff Hassard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at SUNY Oneonta. And for tonight's show, the first part we're going to spend getting to know our new Associate Director of Athletics, Brian Jester. And the second part of our show, we're going to have a special guest join Brian and myself, Brian's father, Don Jester, SUNY Oneonta Athletic Hall of Famer that we inducted in 2003. So please stay tuned after the break where I'll be joined in studio by tonight's first guest, Brian Jester.
60-inch screen, high definition. Football season is coming up. You can watch it right here. What do you think?
I'll take it.
Huh? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You're right. I don't need it.
Hey, we're Fallout Boy.
Turn around the world, we hear about global warming all the time.
Basically, if the Earth got only a few degrees warmer, rising sea levels would drown major cities and displace millions of people.
But there are so many things you can do.
Switch to more energy-efficient light bulbs.
Reuse bags and bottles and always recycle.
You got an even better idea?
DoSomething.org and the kids from the Maximum Ride books are all about the environment and want to see what you are doing to fight global warming.
This September, they're giving out $500 grants for your green project.
So what are you waiting for?
Visit DoSomething.org.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio, my first guest this evening, Associate Director of Athletics, Brian Jester. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I grew up in the area in central New York. Grew up in Broome County, just a few miles away, and went away to the University of Georgia approximately 20 years ago. Played baseball there. I've always been in the sporting goods industry and have enjoyed the change. Was a college baseball player, played professionally, worked for Major League Baseball, worked for the NHL, but have always been in sporting goods, have always been in the athletic business, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful move for me.
Now, your experience as a Division I athlete, you played for a national champion in 1990 for the University of Georgia, and then you actually went on and you signed with the Atlanta Braves organization and played some minor league baseball. Can you talk a little bit about your Division I playing experience?
As I mentioned before, I grew up in this area, and my parents were always very progressive in how they wanted us to pursue an athletic career, and they were very supportive in going away. And that was always a little bit of myself being hesitant, but my older sister went away to school and played college field hockey at North Carolina. My brother went to East Carolina. My older brother went to Lebanon Valley, and they were very supportive in pursuing a dream. And playing college baseball at the University of Georgia was something that I will always remember. It was a wonderful experience, going to the College World Series a couple times, winning it, then playing professionally. It really put me in a position for the rest of my life to stay in sporting goods and in the athletic business. And it's been a great, wonderful trip so far, wonderful ride.
And now you're, obviously you're playing on a scholarship, pressure to be those top-notch athletes. What kind of experience or pressure did you experience, at a Division I situation?
It was an interesting mix of our roster, because at the time, we only had, as you're familiar with roster sizes, we had a very small roster, and a large percentage of our roster was composed of Northeast guys. So it was, even though we were representing a southern university, our roster was about 70-80% north of the Mason-Dixon line. So that was comforting, knowing that making the transition down there, everybody was in the same boat. So we were very, very, very close. We had a roster size of just over 25. For baseball, it's very unusual. Yeah. And the transition of being closer to players your own age and teammates your own age from the same area, from New Jersey and Chicago and Pittsburgh, it made the transition a lot easier going down into the Southeast.
Now, teammates, do you have any teammates that are in the major leagues now or still in the minor league systems or that you even coached?
Yeah. Well, Gordon Beckham, who was a Sporting News Rookie of the Year this year, was our shortstop a year and a half ago. We have Mitchell Boggs, who's a pitcher with the Cardinals. And we've got some guys, literally 4 or 5 guys that are at AAA. So it's exciting to be a part of their lives and a part of their experience, and knowing I still stay in close contact with all of them. So it's one moment you're watching them on ESPN, and the next moment you're talking to them on the phone, and there's still some wholesomeness to who they are. But right. To see them mature as adults and knowing that you had a little bit of an impact, I try to remind them that I still remember them, eating cereal at Hampton Inn less than 2 years ago. Now they're playing in Yankee Stadium. So it's the guys who I've coached and have been a part of in the last couple of years while I was at Georgia. I had some teammates that have since retired. But it's been wonderful to keep those relationships.
Can you tell right away if those guys are pro prospects? I mean, because now you're in a Division III situation, and you haven't seen our team play yet. But we do have some
Sure.
legitimate kids.
Sure.
When you see these guys, what's the difference?
It's interesting making the transition, and I can only compare it to baseball because that's been the majority of my time that I spent at Georgia being associated with the baseball program. The quality of play, I know one of our pitchers, Dave Felak, has a promising, hopefully professional career, but he has some responsibility to take care of here in the next couple of months. The quality of velocity, pitching, and command is very similar. It just happens to be more of them, possibly at the Division I level. Dave could pitch for any program in the country. It just so happens that an Auburn or Georgia or Alabama would have 3 guys like Dave. So it's all the same. It just happens to be a bigger roster, a roster with more of Dave Felaks.
Right.
And so it's exciting. Obviously I have a baseball interest, but it's still the same issues: compliance and facilities and practice times. We're all in the same boat.
Right. So now you've come here. You've been here for a little over 3 months, 4 months now, but you were coming home, so it wasn't like a culture shock coming from Atlanta to Oneonta, New York. How have you felt during the transition, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about your first three months here at Oneonta?
It's been a wonderful transition. Being able to work with yourself and being able to work with Tracy and Dr. Perry and Dr. Ingersoll and the sports medicine staff and Renata and all the coaches and all the student athletes. It's been a very humbling experience. I feel more comfortable every day, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be. It's, as I mentioned before, there's no real difference between Athens or Atlanta and Oneonta. It just happens to be just a smaller student body. It's still all the same issues, and it's the excitement around, surrounding the events. It's wonderful. It's been great.
So because you said you were in the sporting goods business, and then your last stint where you were at Georgia, you were involved with the baseball program as director of baseball operations. And what kinds of things did you do in that capacity?
It's interesting because the position that I was in within that administration was kind of a hodgepodge of everything that an athletic administrator would do: compliance, event game management, facilities, academics, travel, budgeting. It's essentially everything that the head coach wouldn't want to do, and it's very, very, very similar. You take care of your business with a professional attitude. You try to convey that to the coaches. But it was a hodgepodge of everything: camps, clinics, eligibility issues, you name it. So when you applied for this job here, what was the biggest thing that attracted you? Was it
being able to come back home, or just the challenge of a newer position, different place?
It was the challenge of being a part of an administration that enabled me to be more creative in what I was doing. I felt as though the experience that I had in the sporting goods industry, and coupled with the administrative experience at Georgia, was a perfect fit. And there's certainly a location. There was an enticement of the location, but I've lived all over the country, and I've seemed to settle into no matter where I was. It was the opportunity to work within an administration and to represent a university within an athletic department that I tried to do a lot of homework. So I knew that if it was a position that I was offered, it was something that I would have jumped at, and I'm very, very grateful.
Now, in being a Division I athlete, of course, as you say, it's different. It's just a different world in Georgia. Is there any similarities that you see now with working with our students? I mean, you've been through an entire fall season now. Right. We're all done with all of our teams and practices and stuff. What kind of differences, things that stood out in your first, season of competition?
Sure. It is the level of competition. I think at the Division III level gets overlooked a lot of times, and there's a certain segment within the Division I framework of actual competition that people at a Division III or Division II or spectators or coaches feel as though that it's something different, and it really isn't. The student athletes still have the same passion. They still have the same concerns. Their academics and projects and tests. There's not a lot of difference that way. One thing that I've enjoyed is the Division III philosophy of getting away from this corporatism of it is a big business, and it's something that I've always had in the back of my mind that I'm a Division III guy at heart, and I think the better Division I teams adopt more of a Division III philosophy, and because the talent level is all the same. Right? So it's the intangibles, it's the integrity and the passion that Division III exemplifies.
Right. So the philosophy here, you think, in dealing with our student athletes, I mean, as you say, they're passionate, they want to compete, they're trying to go to the NCAAs just like anyone else would. Right. Any things that stand out with any of our teams or any of the athletes that you were really surprised by during our fall season?
I think the level of consistency and the level of passion, the level of expectation being the same. Obviously our soccer program has a pedigree, has a foundation of success, and it's something that we're obviously building on. But I think the other sports, with what Matt has done with the cross-country program, the improvement that Kelly has made with the field hockey, and our volleyball playing great against Cortland that weekend put us into a position later in the season. That's been very, very comforting, seeing that everybody's striving for the same goal. And I know I've mentioned this to you before, this postseason that's when it really gets exciting. And I think, I want our other programs and our spectators and our alumni and our student body to get their arms around what our women's soccer program has done. The postseason is
everybody's sharing the glory, not
right.
just, hey, it's just women's soccer or men's
right.
soccer. Our men's soccer team had an outstanding season and was probably right on the edge of making the NCAA tournament for first time in almost 35 years or whatever.
Right.
So, well, we certainly want to thank you for the first coming by for the first part of the show, and we're going to be joined by a familiar face in your household.
Yeah.
Your dad will be coming up. So,
super.
Well, so after the break, we'll be joined by Brian's dad, Don Jester, SUNY Oneonta Athletic Hall of Famer. So please come back after the break.
We have the power. We have the power to unite people. If we can unite people who are willing to take a stand, miracles can happen. What do you stand for? In Darfur, hundreds of thousands have been murdered, mutilated, families torn apart. Please take a stand with us. We have the power to save lives, to restore lives. Join us at aidstillrequired.org. Together, we have the power to change the world.
There's a lot of talk out on the street about his mother.
Your mother. Their mother. But in the end, is anyone really even thinking about them?
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio, Brian Jester's dad, Don Jester, Hall of Famer. Welcome to the show, Don.
Glad to be here.
Well, certainly, are you happy, first of all, are you happy with Brian being back in the area and working here at Oneonta, where you went to school?
I couldn't be happier, to have a son working at my alma mater, and my hometown.
Yep, you grew up in Oneonta. You played three-sport athlete at Oneonta High School. Then you came up the hill, as they say, to Old Main at that time. And you were another standout in three sports as well, basketball and baseball and soccer. You were on our first men's soccer team. Graduated in 1957, and then 6 years ago we inducted you at Athletic Hall of Fame because of your outstanding accomplishments as a student athlete here. And then this past fall you were just inducted into the Oneonta High School Athletic Hall of Fame. So I guess now you've completed the trip, I guess. So.
It's something that you never expect as you go through those years, from high school to college, and then you go away. And I was a teacher and a coach and all that, and then retire, and then one day you get a phone call and you say, "Oh, really? All those things that I did just because I enjoyed it and it was fun, and I'm going to be recognized, and that's wonderful." And you go to sleep at night saying, "Geez, what a wonderful life,
Right.
And
now, when you were here as a student, obviously the campus was quite smaller. I mean, there weren't all the buildings that we have now. And as we were walking around, and you've been back on campus many times, you're just amazed at all the buildings and facilities that we have now. Can you just give us a little sense of what it was like back in the mid-50s? Because that was really the beginning of a lot of our teams. I mean, men's soccer started. The baseball team had just started getting back going. Our basketball team, of course, was going and pretty successful for about 5 or 6 years. So what was it like being a student and an athlete, back at that time?
First of all, the Old Main was it. Took all your classes at Old Main, and you were very close. I think there was 1,000 students in the whole school.
Wow.
And you seem to know everybody, And of course, all the athletics were played off campus, between the Armory and Newall Park and Webb Island, and soccer was down there. Soccer was something that my junior year we decided, well, let's have a soccer team and get in shape for basketball.
Yeah, okay.
So we got things going, and it was fun. We had a tough time finding a coach even, but that was great. And of course, all the other things that fell into place as I went through, 4 years of high school and 4 years of college. Many of the people, coaches, they did multi things, Hal Chase was our basketball coach and also our baseball coach, and the soccer coach, Hurley McLean, he was my high school basketball coach, and he stepped in to help out. And as you progress through those years, you think back on it and you can remember, almost like it happened yesterday, whether it's a game you lost or a game you pitched and lost, and I lost one. But
that's what I mean. You didn't lose too many, so I don't think there's too much to remember.
And I don't even remember at the time. It wasn't important,
Yeah.
Whether you were the high scorer or you pitched a one-hitter or something like that, it wasn't important. And but at age 21, I said, well, Oneonta's a great place, but I felt like I missed something because most of my teammates were from out of town.
Okay.
Not all of them, but
some.
And I used to go home with them on their holidays, just to get away, because I was from a large family, and it was just nice. And but as a professional, in my profession, I certainly carried on to do all the things that at one time or another I coached football, I coached basketball, and I was a track coach. And I became a guidance counselor, and of course, at that point in my life, my kids were all involved, and I have 3 sons and a daughter, and you met my middle son, and you just had to go to their games, and you had to be supportive in that sense. So I got out of the coaching part.
Yeah. Now, did growing up with your 4 children, did you see at an early age that some of them had some ability, or was it just a matter of getting them to keep trying and working? And I mean, I guess he was a coach and he was a good athlete, so how was he as a dad, I guess? Maybe, Brian, if you can maybe answer that.
He was, I think it was a lot, from what I've heard about my grandfather, he was kind of quiet. Dad was he never would critique us or anything when we would come home after a game, or he would kind of let us do our own thing. We'd play wiffle ball in the back and football and stuff out in the lawn, but no, he was pretty. He was always there,
right?
But he was not the helicopter kind of parent.
Right.
He wasn't.
Okay.
He was.
Was it important for them to be involved in athletics because it did so much for you?
I guess in some cases they didn't have a choice, because I put up a basket, I put up a light, I built a pool, and my daughter got involved, and so they could play 2-on-2. Of course, my daughter learned to play basketball. I mean, at a young age, she knew what a jump shot was and how to block out and get a rebound, and that was just there. And if one of them couldn't play, I'd play, you know.
Yeah.
And so, and then it was my family, my brothers and sisters, and my wife's family. They were very athletic, and so they really, they were always in touch with some kind of a sport, depending on what the season was.
Right.
And, so and even today, at a ripe old age that I am, I just gave up refereeing basketball, and I still do track, and I go to the basketball games, keep a scorebook for the university down south of here, Binghamton University,
okay.
And I enjoy all the other things like hunting and fishing. But I'm especially excited about certainly having my son here, and it gives me a lot of excuses to come back to my hometown, and I still have brothers and sisters that live nearby, but
right.
Especially my son.
Right, now your uncle, George Wetmore, he was the captain of our 49-50 team that we just inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, growing up, how was that with an uncle that was also another legend in Oneonta?
Yeah. What I know about Uncle George when he was growing up and playing, he was more my father's idol. So it's interesting to hear the stories, and I think it's part of my responsibility to know that, and I enjoy that, being a part of the community now, and to embrace that. Uncle George he said he used to teach you how to shoot in the backyard, or that's what Dad used to tell me. So
yeah, when he was playing, it was 2 hands.
Yes, the 2-hand push
right.
shot.
And then I was probably one of the first ones that had a jump shot, and that was something that just evolved.
Yep.
Was easier. And we used to shoot the foul shot underhand.
Yep.
Then I found I could make it a higher percentage with a jump shot. I was a jump shot from the foul line. But with George involved, he was older, but when he was 16, 17, 18 years old, I was like 11 or 12, and I'd go his games, and he was a captain, a playmaker, and boy, I hope someday I can be like George Wetmore,
Yeah, that's what we heard at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
Yeah.
I mean, he was quite an individual, and then listening to him talk about how his coach was the father of someone who coached up here, Don Axtell. I mean, I was like, wow, they're all connected in some way, because he said that his first introduction to Don Axtell, before he obviously grew up and came up to be our coach for baseball, was as the mascot at Oneonta High School, because his dad coached him. So I mean, and even you played for, Hal Chase is in our Hall of Fame, and Hurley McLean we just inducted into our Hall of Fame. I mean, so your connection to really the legends of this town that people know, the names and stuff like that, I mean, it had to influence you, growing up or whatever. And as you say, you wanted to be like George or whatever. And there are people that, I'm sure George wanted to be like too that came before him. I mean, so certainly, you know, you've been connected to a lot of Hall of Famers, and for yourself, I mean, what's it like to know that your dad, you know, is that good? And you know, is it fun? Is it?
I remember we were during the induction in '03. We all came back. I remember we were living all over the country, and it was really the first time, because as you're growing older, you never really want to believe. You hear the stories and how good your dad was, and you know, you embrace it. But it was the first time that I think we collectively as a family kind of saw what Dad has done, and you know, I get to walk by the plaque every day.
Yeah, held in the hallway.
So I get reminded of that. I know his hair's a little different now. It was shorter back then.
Yeah, that's right. You all had the crew cut look or whatever. That, you know, the shorter hair, the crew cut look or whatever, with the shaved sideburns and all the
Crew cuts.
Yeah.
Crew cuts for a long time, and
it makes this job a lot easier knowing that you have a personal interest in it, and I think that that's important, and that came out of me going through the process with yourself and Tracy and Dr. Perry. But Dad did all right.
Yeah.
He got 2 plaques now.
Now you say you have a couple of brothers that are still in town that actually still are coaching some of the local. I mean, this past summer you had one of your brothers who coached the Legion team to almost the state title in Legion ball. I mean, is that?
It was our cousin.
Oh, your cousin.
Yeah, his nephew.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, Michael Jester. It was interesting coming up the day that I.
Oh yeah.
The day that I had interviewed with Dr. Perry.
That was the same.
That was the same day that the wall down at the bottom of the hill said, "Congratulations, Coach Jester."
Yeah. So people thought we were welcoming you, right? Hey, congratulations! We could have just changed it to Brian, right? Welcome.
Right. But no, it's been great. It's been a wonderful to reconnect, and I know the stories are all true now. I hear them from Uncle George and Uncle Bruce and Uncle Bill and Aunt Nancy and all of them. So,
well, we certainly, thank you again for coming on the show today and certainly sharing just some good, fun stories. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's reconnecting, and for you, it really was a personal reconnection to come back to Oneonta. And we want to thank you both for coming on the show today, and maybe we'll have you back maybe later in the spring to talk about some more stuff, because we want to try and get on a lot of our Hall of Famers just to get them back and to talk to them. So, so thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, Geoff.
And we'd like to thank you both for coming again, and we'd like to thank you for joining us for another exciting edition of Inside Red Dragon Sports. As always, please visit our website and call our 24-hour sports hotline for all the information and the scores and results of all our athletic teams as we move forward into the second semester. We'd like to wish everyone a happy holiday and a healthy holiday season as well, and we'll see you in the second semester on Inside Red Dragon Sports.